apartment 483 to walk right up that way to the ends of the wood.
Are there any rats down here?
I hope not. If there are, you'll let me know, right?
I'll let you know.
Okay. Watch your step, you guys. All the better to spook you with. All right. So, I believe that's everybody, right? Okay. Welcome to the underground, you guys. Now, what makes this the underground is the fact that you're standing underneath the newer sidewalks. Now, how this came about was due to that Great Seattle Fire. A lot of people think, oh, what a tragedy that was. It was actually the best thing for the city, because it allowed them to rebuild themselves. Because prior to the fire, Seattle was suffering from a lot of problems. And their main problem was the fact that they were built at sea level and a lot close to the water. So even extreme high tides were known to come in and flood Front Street and some of the businesses. And of course, when plumbing came to Seattle, they weren't kidding when they said, do not flush your crappers at high tide. You're literally blowing off your crapper. We're talking 6 to 8 foot geysers of sewage and salt water would shoot out of these things. Not a pretty sight or a pretty smell. But don't worry, they just flushed that all down to Tacoma. Yeah. So what happens is the city officials come up with this great idea. They said, well, now that we have this opportunity to rebuild, what we'd like to do is we'd like to tear down all the hills and cliffs that surround us and use all that dirt to raise our land. It's going to take care of all of our problems. In fact, Seattle's not the first to try this. Other cities have done this and they've been very successful. But the business owners, they said, yeah, that's a great idea, but how long will that take? And they said, oh, 8 to 10 years. 8 to 10 years. No business owner can wait 8 to 10 years before they can rebuild. So the very next day after the fire, they just go ahead and start building. So the buildings start to go up. And the city officials are yelling, stop, you guys. We're not going to fix anything. We're going to have the exact same problems that we had before. Well, since the city is only responsible for our city streets, they said, fine. Then I guess we're just going to raise our streets. So they built these walls around each and every block. Then they tore down all those hills and cliffs and used all that dirt to go in between the walls. So now your street is up here, but your sidewalk is still down here. Yeah, so if you want to get around through Seattle, what they did is they put ladders at all 4 corners. So yes, right there would have been a ladder. You would have gone up a ladder, across the street, go down another ladder to get to the other block. That's how it worked here in Seattle for 20 years. 20 years it took them to finish the regrading of the city. So when they finally put in the new sidewalks, what this does is this now turns the first floor into the basement. And the second floor now becomes your main entrance. So you're standing where the pioneers once stood, where they walked, and where they died. And here at Spooked in Seattle, we've actually been going on our way to restore this back to what this was like when this was the original sidewalks. We put in the windows where the windows used to be, the doors where the doors used to be. You don't get to see this on the underground tours. Yeah. Now, you are in the underground. It is dark. And you did pay for a ghost tour, right? So now for a ghost story. Now, I've actually had plenty of opportunities to investigate these underground sections. And I was doing an investigation for a local news crew. Now, the guy with the news crew says, you know what? We would love to interview you after the investigation. And I said, sure, not a problem. Now, the investigation ended at 4 o'clock in the morning. So I'm tired. I want to go home and go to bed, but I still have to do this interview. So what was supposed to be just a 10-minute interview ended up being over 45 minutes long. And I'm not sure what's going on, why they keep having to stop and restart, stop and restart. Well, we finally get through the interview, and the guy with the audio equipment, he says, I'm so sorry, Ross. He says, every time you started to talk, we kept getting all these interruptions. We're not sure what's causing that. So I get to thinking, I'm going, oh. I said, I bet you guys are getting some of those EVPs. So I told him when you get back to the studio, edit those out and send them to me, and we'll see what we got. So the very next day, he sends me a bunch of these clips. Now, I'm going to play you one of those clips. And listen carefully, because again, all you should hear is me here in the underground talking. But there's a lot more than just that. All right. so if you listen carefully, you can hear me talking, but then all of a sudden it sounds like children laughing, and then they begin to sing. And I don't know why children have to be so creepy. But that's not all we've experienced here in the underground. In fact, we've experienced quite a few odd things. In fact, quite a few people on the tours have reported seeing this shadowy figure moving around here in this corner here. So that's why we tend to put the weaker people towards the back. We're going to head out here for a couple more stories. So watch your step. There's going to be 2 steps up and then 2 steps down. Oops, excuse me. You guys want to kind of move up this way? Alright. Now again, when I took over this place, I had found all kinds of interesting treasures. And one of the things that I found was this little kid's chair. So this was definitely a keeper. So I moved the chair into this room. Now every time I left this room and I kept coming back, I kept finding this chair in another location. So this chair was moving around quite a bit. So just to test my sanity, I took chalk and I drew circles around the legs. I left again, came back, and I found that the chair had moved from this location over to where the pews are now. So this is definitely pretty interesting. And I thought, well gosh, maybe this might be due to the fact that they believe that a little girl haunts this location. And this comes from our investigations that we did while this was still a restaurant. Many of the staff had talked about seeing this little girl peeking around the corners or through the doorways. You might hear her giggling or talking. So I thought, gosh, this could be her letting us know that she's still around. So I purchased a doll for her. Now what's really cool about this doll is if you wind her up, her head will spin around. I'm kidding. She actually has a music box inside of her. So there's been plenty of times we'll be here late at night and we'll actually hear that music box playing by itself. But one of the most interesting things was something that was recently brought to my attention when somebody on the tour had pointed out the coffin. Well, this is a real late 1800s children's viewing coffin. And as I was pointing that out, I noticed how dusty it's getting. And if everybody takes their flashlight and you shine it right at the very top center of the coffin, you will all see children's fingerprints on the coffin. It's right at the very top center. Right on the second tier up. You see it? I don't like to go in there because I don't want to disturb it. But yeah, it's right on the top of the center, below the window.
They're like dot things.
There's like three finger marks. Yeah. So she has definitely been pretty active. But there's one other story I'm going to share with you guys, so head on out this way. And please turn off your flashlights and return them to the basket.